It says you are recording. Yeah, we're broadcasting.
Okay. With the pause, people look, is that
I
what they
paused
see?
it so that it doesn't play over the speakers.
Oh. But we are recording.
Yes.
Okay. I don't even know today's date. So it is March 11th, 2024. This is the Old Farm Discussion Board meeting. We are recording as always. These will be on YouTube later on. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. We've got a few topics sort of all over the place, but some of them are very important. We're going to try to do this in a timely manner tonight. First and foremost, I do know that I can see that there's a few people that are joining us online. We're going to continue to do these hybrid meetings. We had run into some logistical issues regarding the Parks Department and our meeting room. And at this point, we are in classroom 2, but there is a possibility we will be moving into one of the other classrooms in the same senior center, Larchburg Community Center, for people to know. All of that said, we're going to do quick introductions of the board. My name is James DeRofi. I'm the board chair.
And I'm Ross Tinty.
Jen Sawyer, social media.
Karen Johnson, land use chair.
And Brian Kennedy.
And we just had somebody, one of our board members stepped down to life. So we'll be talking briefly about board recruitment as always. Very important for citizen engagement or just civic engagement. That being said, we have 2 guests in the room. One of them is the board chair of Southeast Bend Neighborhood Association. Jim, would you like to say hello?
Hello, it's Jim Christo. I'm Southeast Bend. We're just south of you guys and work with you a lot. So glad to be here.
And of course, I'm going to put you on the spotlight.
Of course.
Hi, I'm Ann Perry. I am a constituent in the district.
And if anybody else wants to say hi, we've got some people that I definitely know. You're welcome to just click on the camera. If not, that's fine.
Oh,
Hello, Kim and Jill Minch signing on.
Good to hear you again. It's been a while.
Yeah,
And Ken, you're welcome to come down here anytime you want if you're not flying around the West Coast. And
okay. We'll try to make it one evening.
well, I thank you. Well, I'm sure you're going to come to the general meeting once we tell you the topics.
Yep.
And then Carla, well, we see you're joining us again. Thank you. Does anybody, any of the public, Kim, Jill, Carla, Ann, want to comments for the public? Your questions that you'd like to address?
No, not yet. Let's see what topics come up.
Nope, we're all ears tonight.
Okay. So we're going to do a quick land use update from Karen. Karen is our land use chair. She meets regularly with the other land use chairs of the other neighborhood associations. Karen, what have you got for us? What do you want to tell us about?
well, I really want to talk about trees. I don't have any developments coming in this month. One short-term rental application, which we don't even publish anymore. It's impossible to object to them. But the public is being invited to comment on their opinion for the general proposed tree code. The TRUAC meeting, the tree committee meeting, met, I think the last meeting was in November. The staff was going to draft a specific code provision. They've not finished with that yet. But in the meantime, the council is taking general opinions from people. For example, the number of trees that are being saved, what percentage, what size. And tomorrow night at 5:30 in the municipal courthouse on 15th, where the police station is, there's going to be another meeting with city council to talk about what you think the tree codes should look like. And I'm going to be there, and I urge everybody else to come too.
When is that again? When is that again?
5:30 tomorrow at Municipal Court on 15th.
And we have no new developments other than what's been going on, but we all know there's a lot going on. There hasn't been, was that last development or the last meeting, did we cover the townhouse developments around the new library? Do you guys remember?
Yes.
Okay, we already covered that then. Any questions for Karen? Okay. If that,
Do we have any details on the Hayden development off of Magnolia? Do we know anything about what the composition of that development is
You
gonna
mean,
look
you
like?
mean the Magnolia Meadows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm writing a summary now. I'm gonna ask. I should indicate, we've been looking at trying to do an overview of what's happening on 27th in Ferguson, north of the middle school. There are hundreds of units going in, plus a commercial strip, and trying to get an idea of just what this would do in terms of, for example, traffic on Ferguson. We're looking at least 3,000 additional vehicle trips a day. And as far as I can determine, the city is not going to do anything special about that. We have the developments going in north of Ferguson, hundreds more units plus the library. And I think we're going to put together a comprehensive overview so people can look at that area and really understand everything that's going in, because it's going to be a radical change that's going to add huge amounts of traffic and people to that area. The most Hayden Homes is developing something called Meadows, Magnolia Meadows. And it's going to be a combination of townhomes and single family detached. And it's just, I think they're looking at 1,000 vehicle trips per day just on that. So a lot's going on, and I think we need to put it together so people can get a bird's idea of what's
so I
going on.
would like to clarify something, Karen. The Southeast Area Plan, which has been approved and was in discussion, is already public record. And that has been on the books now for a few years. What Karen is discussing is now developers are actually starting to buy and starting to develop parts of the Southeast Area Plan. So none of this is unexpected, but now the question is, what is truly starting to shape up, or what's it going to consist of and how? That is just in the Southeast Area Plan in that area. And that is, I'm not talking about, and neither is Karen, Stevens Ranch or Stevens Tract, which is,
Yeah. Raise hand. See. You can just talk.
what was that, Jill?
Yeah, I have a question. Because I haven't been around to be looking at what's proposed for the Highway 27. Is that still going to be a 2-lane road, or are they actually going to require the builders to put in another lane or two?
It's going to be an extremely modified version of something similar to Mount Washington. So at every neighborhood, you're going to have a dedicated turn lane, ingress, egress. You're going to have a super big median strip going down the entire road. Both sides are going to have sidewalks, bike lanes. Along the east side of the road, there's going to be an independent bike path that connects the Ferguson intersection all the way up to Bear Creek. Does that
Okay.
help answer your question?
Well, sort of, yeah. In other words, the usual. Okay. Got it.
It's not gonna be a 4-lane road with a double yellow line going down the middle of it.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question. Is there not a roundabout planned at Ferguson in 27,
Yes,
as well as Ferguson in 15 at the other end?
yes. And the first roundabout upgrade is going to be at Wilderness Way and 27th Street, and that construction will start very, very soon. And when I mean very soon, I mean this year, this spring, this summer. And then right across or adjacent to that roundabout will be the new library. which has already been approved, and they've started working on that land. And then next to the library on the north and east side are two townhome developments, which have already been approved. And I'm probably wrong, but I think the total units was 160 or 170 units for.
Yeah,
both
it's not
locations.
over 200.
It wasn't over
Yeah,
200.
it's relatively small.
So the Wilderness Way roundabout is the first roundabout that's gonna go in, and that is going to be the initial infrastructure upgrades you see along 27th Street. Does that help, Jill, or do you have any other questions?
That was.
That's all. Thank you.
Those answer questions, sorry.
That's okay. I'm guessing that the Ferguson one will be next.
Not necessarily. The way, this is one of the things that we're gonna talk about in this meeting is we are going to try to set up for our general meeting an update on how all of this is gonna happen, transportation and infrastructure wise, and we'll go into details in that in a few minutes.
I do have one more question about that, though. Is it possible that they're leaving space even though they're not going to be doing a 4-lane road? Or are they gonna have them build right up to the road?
So if you look at the initial layouts from both the library and the developer of Stevens Ranch, it really depends on who buys which property, when and where. So the library is making a point so that it's not gonna be right up against 27th Street.
So the
So
city
if the
has no requirements of the builders to back off.
No, as far as like not an easement, or what your
Setback.
setback.
Setback,
Yeah, as far as setback goes, not necessarily, but what I can tell you is due to the fact there is going to be that dedicated separate bike path, that will most likely act as a pretty large setback, the entire north-south side of it.
What I'm picturing is when you look across from Alpenglow Park and you're looking at, I believe it's the bridges, they have a really nice setback there with actually a green belt and
Should be similar.
that's what I think everyone's hoping for.
They don't want to build that right on the road.
Yeah, I mean, from what Ann just said, that would most likely be a possible version of it, but once again, none of it's decided until the individual developer does. But if you look at 15th Street near the new high school, near the new park, you can kind of have an understanding of what higher density, single family and townhomes look like along a major arterial.
right. I don't have any issue about, as much as I do have about the traffic being able to move along in one lane each way.
Yeah, so that let's come back to that in a few minutes. So that should be good for land use at this point, I think, right, Karen?
Yep.
Okay. This is a bit of board business that the board has to do very quickly. The city council has asked all the individual neighborhood associations to reconsider naming concepts as they rebrand all the neighborhood associations in different sections of town into what the city is calling districts. This board has to vote on how we want to look at that moving forward. I'm going to say something very quickly, and then we'll have each individual board member say their piece, and then we'll take a vote. Essentially, for the last 20-something years, we have already been the Old Farm District, and that is a geographical boundary. And so we don't have to actually determine whether or not we're going to be a district because we already have been a district. What we're going to have to determine is whether or not we want to just be known as the Old Farm District or whether or not we want to be known as the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association. Some of the discussion is a neighborhood association is a governing body or a social entity regarding an area versus the political boundary lines, or I should say developmental boundary lines of the old farm district. I myself am fine with remaining the old farm district neighborhood association, and we just did a major rebranding 2+ years ago with new logo and everything. At this point, I would like each individual board member to say their piece. And then afterwards, pass a motion as to what our name should or should not be going forward, because we have to get this to the city at the end of the month. Ross, why don't you speak?
And while I'm not too passionate about it, I think I prefer we just keep everything the same as is. So that's what I plan on voting for.
Keep everything as is, considering we just spent all that time rebranding. Makes
Keep it
sense.
as is.
Sharon? And then Brian.
Yeah, keep it as it is, for the simple reason that these efforts to try to perhaps create consistency and cohesion clearly is not happening. So there's no point in changing what we're doing. I think we should just stay where we're at.
Well, it sounds to me like sort of a unanimous version, so let's, we got a hand raised, all right. We will submit to the city, we want to remain the Old Farm District's Neighborhood Association. The district being our boundary lines and the neighborhood association being this board and the people that we represent, which is everyone within the district. Okay. Next topic. Brian, I'm gonna let you handle this one. Regarding neighborhood district roundtable mission statements, as well as the district's purpose statements. These are two different topics. One of them is from NART, which is the Neighborhood Association Roundtable, an unofficial organization. And the second is the actual city's municipal code regarding the districts. Both, a bunch of us have been working with city staff over the last few months and other neighborhood associations for these two topics. Brian, could you give us first what they both are and then where we're at?
Sure. They are two separate issues, so I'll separate them. First, starting with the NART, the Neighborhood Association Roundtable. Insert the word district there if you wish. That is sort of reforming and really working out a direction about what it wants to be with the collapse and erasure of the NLA. It's really the only other entity that's out there, and it is independent of the city, so it is free to move about and do what it wants. And that discussions for part in 9 months or 10 months have been about what do we want to look like when we grow up. And so through all that, it's evolved, but it did land on a mission statement that was approved by those who were present at the last meeting, and I can read that to you so you know what it is. And it states, the mission of the Neighborhood Association / District Roundtable is to strengthen the Bend community by facilitating collaborative processes where neighborhood districts can connect to discuss and act upon core issues. That's the mission statement. There are two proposals that are currently under discussion for refined vision statement, but that hasn't been finalized as yet. So some language in the mission statement that I just read basically played to what NART has long been about connecting the different districts. And I think some key language in there was act upon, which was meant to allow NART to advocate if it wishes. Basically, it's not limited. It's not restricted from doing so. So more to come on that. The operational procedures for NART will be the next hurdle to clear, and will no doubt take some work because there's varying opinions about how such an entity ought to negotiate itself and its relationship with the city. So key stuff still coming. The other thing that James referenced was
and to clarify, just for the record, NART, or whatever they end up deciding to call themselves, is not going to be another form of government. It is not going to be a city recognized committee at this point. This is an organization or an affiliation of residents and businesses in the city of Bend. I just want to make sure that's absolutely clear that NART is not beholden to the city.
Yeah, and one of the, I think, core, and Jen certainly you can jump in here, but I think one of the core principles is that NART has always been about strengthening the neighborhood associations and trying to further efforts that allow the neighborhood associations to be effective and to work together for the great good. So that's good, more or less, right?
Yep, that is correct.
So that will remain a core purpose for NART as it goes forward. So, but to James' point, yeah, remaining independent, very purposely so. The other thing that we have been a part of is the fact that the city code does not contain any language about what is the purpose for the neighborhood associations, and being the only element in the code that doesn't have that, the city council wants to create that language and insert it in the code fairly quickly. So they engaged with the neighborhood associations to work on some language, and there was a workshop that was held short time ago, which we participated in with a number of other people, which was very well run, I thought, and was very effective. And we came out of that with some 4 different write-ups of potential purpose statements that could be brought to the city for discussion with staff, who would then bring it to the council, and they might say yes, or they might trash the whole thing and start over. So, but basically it's the input from our level into what will eventually be in the code. And the interesting thing is there were 4 different groups working independently with guided parameters. And they came out with very similar drafts, or some very common elements in there, which was good. And the facilitators of the workshop were very pleased that they could take this feedback and bring it back to staff, because then you have a very clear idea that this is what, came from the neighborhoods. We voted on the different drafts we wrote them on a piece of paper and stuck them on the wall and then voted on them. So the purpose statement, which received the most votes at that time, was written as such. It says, the purpose of each neighborhood district is to engage and represent their neighborhood and facilitate communication between their residents/businesses and the city, while fostering a sense of community. I think the themes in there were pretty consistent throughout. So that was the #1 vote getter, and combined with the others that had additional votes, we're going to be the feedback that was provided from the workshop to the city to begin that internal discussion. The city, according to their schedule, has a stewardship meeting, hybrid meeting on March 25th. It will go in front of the council for first reading on April 17th, and then the second reading will be on May 1st. So this is going to move along at a very brisk pace. So that's what that is, and we'll keep you informed as we are informed.
And Jim was his representative for Southeast at that purpose statement meeting. Do you have any thoughts or comments you'd like to add in addition to what Brian just said from a different perspective?
Well, I know I was kind of pushing for the city to recognize the fact that we need to advocate for our residents. And so the language is in there, it's kind of called slightly different, but it's the area that I feel that really needs to be emphasized. And so I fought for it pretty hard, and advocacy or discussions with the city. So the city recognized that fact, because that was important. I think with the NLA, the city did not recognize the fact that we should be representing our residents, and so we never got the opportunity to really do that. And when it was done, it was completely ignored, so. That's just my 2 cents worth.
That, I asked for your 2 cents. Thank you.
I'll give you 3, how's that?
Inflation.
Inflation, right?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So how long have these 13 neighborhoods been established?
I believe officially it was 2002 was the first year, but that is not all 13.
It was a different combination.
They staggered over the years. The old farm was one of the first. For a long time, there was only about 7 that were active.
Like, I guess the number's not as relevant as, is it, I'm not understanding, does the city council not know what the purpose of these associations are? And have they not known in all this time?
I think it's fair to say that the purpose can be defined by the council that sits at that moment.
So every time we have council change,
Exactly. And so we everything from our budgets to, what is the path forward that the 2-year plan of the sitting council has, that it slides around a little bit. And so I think that is an effort that's being made here to generally codify what exactly is your purpose. And we will see how that comes out.
Codify and clarify from both aspects, because the neighborhood boards and neighborhood associations were getting just as frustrated with the various city councils as the various city councils have been with the neighborhood associations.
Yeah, and because the work that has been done has been from the neighborhoods up, it remains to be seen what from the city council down is going to look like. And ultimately, the city council can accept it, they can modify it or completely rewrite it. But what has effectively transpired to date is that the NAs have provided feedback about what the NAs think is important to be in that code.
And so historically, the neighborhoods were asked to provide input on topics of how Bend grows, infrastructure, schools, parks, everything like that. But it's sort of, I guess there was a lacking of, should that be, or is it? And every individual neighborhood had their own, we all have our own bylaws, we all have our own boards, we all have our own, I don't want to say agendas, because that's sort of like a directed term, but what matters to the residents of Harvey Butte is very different than what matters to the residents of Old Farm. And ultimately, it's not just the residents. If you own a business in one of the districts, you're just as represented in town as well.
It just feels like that, from what I see, that it's a push, it's always a push up against a council that may or may not want to be receptive. Is that an accurate?
It's a fluid dynamic.
It's fluid.
Yeah, I'll defer to Brian's comment on that.
Okay.
If anyone has any comments or questions in the hybrid section, please, you're welcome to. Some of this is just sort of legalese, but a lot of it does have to do with how the neighborhoods are going to be looked at, moving forward. And if it does, city council decides to codify some of these changes, that will definitely clarify things moving forward with new city
I
councils.
want to insert here a little sales pitch.
Sure.
We have it in an agenda point here, but it is to James's point, and to your question, and to Jim's comment. I think everyone who's involved with the NLA, NART, or neighborhood association wants to be valued, and they want to have a voice that the city respects. And I think, and I'm speaking for myself here, that that's probably the top priority, because there have been too many instances where people have not felt that their work was valued. And it didn't appear to people that it had any sort of outcome. So I think, as James touched on early in this meeting, we have 2 open board positions. And this is what we need, is we need, additional residents of the Old Farm step up and help be a part of this. And the value that we bring to the city is going to be, in my opinion, directly commensurate with how we operate. If we're effective and we do our job well, I believe that they'll value it, because they do want to hear. I mean, it may not seem like it, but I do believe the council want to hear what we say and what we think. How we say and how we bring it to them has a lot to do with how the message is received. So, board operations are really important, and I hope that people who are interested in what we do consider joining us. We need it.
On that note, one of the things this board has been talking about, as well as we've been talking with the city staff and hearing concerns from city council, is, how representative are we of what people are feeling and thinking in the Old Farm District? So we have an active newsletter that goes out, and Ross, if you wouldn't mind, we're just going to share some of our current metrics with the audience, and so that it's just part of record. And we also do an annual statement to the city with some of this data as well. So we send out all of our information using MailChimp. It's just a standard program allowing for items. And we've got some data back. Ross, do you have those numbers in front of you?
I don't have those numbers now.
Okay.
These numbers?
Yeah, just we're trying to start analyzing more so that we can be more effective. But some of the numbers, Brian, if you wouldn't mind reading off some of the percentages. For instance, we have almost 5,000 doors that we are tasked with communicating with. And that number has been going up by a few hundred every year for the last few years. And I say doors because someone that lives in an apartment is just as relevant as somebody that lives in a house, even though they don't send their property tax statement to the state or to the city or the county, I should say, but their rent's paying the property taxes on that apartment. We have almost 1,000 email addresses in the Old Farm District that we communicate with on a regular basis. And Brian, if you just rattle off a couple of how many people are we actually talking to?
Yeah, this is from our February 24 newsletter that we successfully delivered 830 emailed newsletters. There was a total of 796 of those opened. We had 4.7% of folks clicked on them for a total of 76 clicks. And
Clicking on them means they're clicking on the links inside the newsletter to go look at the article or a Go Bond update or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really important to know, because and James is referencing it, one of the most critical measuring sticks from the city's standpoint is how well we reflect and speak for the diversity within our district. And so the more people that participate, even in just signing up for newsletters, is really critical. Our budget for operations annually allows us to do, if we chose to spend the money that way, we could do 2 postcards and send it to every door in our district. That would pretty much sap all of our money. So it's a highly inefficient way to communicate. And if we can if you're part of a homeowners association or anything else where you can spread the word get people to go on the website and just opt into the emails, that would save us so much money and give us so much better representation so that we could go to council. If you want to be heard, we need to have the numbers to do it. And we need to be able to say that we do a good job representing our district. And so the more people who opt into the emails or surveys that we might put out is really, really important for the work that we're trying to do.
Yeah, to just clarify, so essentially right now, we're around 20-something, around 20% of our district is getting information from us at least once a month. Some people might think that number's, terribly low. Some people might think that's very high. But if we're communicating, so we're just going to use these numbers going forward to increase the people that are opening and reading what we're sending out, because that's why we're here. So we're just putting that out to the public as a board that, yes, we are following this. When the board goes and talks and releases a statement to the city council, it's not because of the 5 of us or the 7 of us, whatever the number is at the time. It's our opinions. We are getting and responding and working with the people that are engaged. And unfortunately, in the world, if you are not engaged, you have no voice. If you are engaged, you have a voice, and we try to be that voice for you. Yes, that's a marketing campaign, but I think it's worthy. And once again, we're always looking for members to participate, whether or not they want to be on the board, or if they just want to be, like Brian said, the go-between between their homeowners association and us. That's fine. If the homeowners association wants to, make people aware of what's going on, but they're using our data and our information.
And I would add to that, one of the things that we have done, and one of the things the city is mandating going forward is surveys. They're going to require us to do surveys. We were already doing that, but the more people who have an email on file so they can receive the survey means the better our feedback will be to the city. So it's really super important that you don't have to be an activist to fill out a survey about what you like or don't like, but we can't get you the survey if we don't have your email. So,
and we are not selling anyone's information. If somebody gives us their email, this board alone has all of that information. But no, we are not a social media group. We are not any sort of, our only agenda is to get the information and the communications back and forth to the residents and to the city staff and the parks department and the school district if they ask. I don't have anything else on this particular topic. Does anybody else on the board have anything they'd like to add?
People might want to know, like, how do we rate compared to other districts in terms of the number of email addresses? I get the impression we have a lot comparatively.
We are the second largest by number of doors. As far as Mountain View, I believe, is the highest. I think they have almost 7,000 that they're supposed to be communicating with. One of the smallest is Old Bend. I don't even think they have 900 doors they're supposed to be communicating with. I don't have a lot of these numbers yet, and I don't think city staff or city council does either. It is something that everybody wants to know more of. How many, because there is a concern of engagement, especially when it comes to, I don't want to say political issues, but just societal issues. Pardon me? Okay. So on that note, very briefly, we are going to be holding, this isn't on the agenda, but it is definitely part of the agenda. We are going to be holding a general meeting towards the end of April. We'll be finalizing the day tomorrow. And so upcoming emails and notifications you will be getting are part of that general meeting. We will be having 3 speakers and topics. The one that we have absolutely confirmed is the school district regarding the levy. The ballots for the school district's levy go out on May 1st, which is why we are trying to have our meeting the week before. So that way the school districts can come and say their piece. We will have a school administrator who will be defining and telling us about all the legal ramifications and answering questions. And then there's going to be at least one school board member defending why they are asking for the levy. As a board, we're just going to make sure it is polite discussion and questions and comments. They will be our main topic. We are in the process of narrowing down the other two guests. So please stay on the lookout for postcards and emails over the next 7 weeks or 6-7 weeks regarding that email. And we will be advertising on social media. As I always share with everything, everybody on our board agrees that if there's ever anything put on a ballot regarding taxes, that there should be as much public conversation about it beforehand as possible. If anything, just to alleviate misinformation. Everybody has their own opinion and everyone is definitely welcome to vote however they want to. I encourage people to vote. That is all I think.
Do you want to talk about the NSSP?
Yes, but I just was trying to wrap in the general meeting. Is there any other comments that we had on the general meeting? Possible topics? Brian's got 2 ideas of the secondary member.
I think we should state that where the meeting would be.
So the meeting will be here at the senior center. And most likely it will start at 6 o'clock. And it'll probably be an hour and a half long. That means the doors will open at 5:30. And we have one other board meeting before that meeting, so we will be able to definitely tell everybody the ultimate details multiple times over the next 5 weeks.
Are we wanting tables there again, like how we did last time, like pollinator pathway and those type of
I
groups?
see no reason not to have them. So definitely reach out. Brian's recommended, and this goes back to both what Ann and Jill were discussing, possibly reaching out to city staff and having them give us a sort of a breakdown, an update on the infrastructure regarding the southeast side of town. On our website, Ross, if you could pull up the GoBond dashboard. So we keep this on the front page of the website, and this is current projects, where they're at, what's going on in regard to the GO bond that was passed in 2020. But a lot of the infrastructure, the new infrastructure and the needed infrastructure in the southeast side of town are not covered by this bond. The majority of the improvements along 27th Street, for instance, along Knott Road, are not covered by this bond. They are covered by developer activated projects and construction when certain triggers are hit. So we're gonna try to see if we can city to come out and explain a little bit better to everybody what that means. It won't be a political conversation, but it is a question of, what roads and what intersections are gonna be redesigned and rebuilt, when, why, and how. A lot of people ask us these questions, and a lot of the times these decisions haven't been made, but we think it's a good idea to sort of know some of this going forward. So Brian suggested this as a possible secondary topic. Any board comments regarding if should I reach out to the city staff, and would that be a worthy secondary topic?
I think that would be interesting.
Okay,
Because
so we have an interesting, we have a yawn from Jen.
Yawn and a yawn, yes. I think this would be good for people to get more information about.
Odd.
What?
It's odd.
Yeah.
It was a mom kitchen table discussion.
That was it.
Ross, are you fine with that?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think we could probably do a pretty quick update on it as well.
Okay. And then as far as a third organization, let's just talk about that over the next week or third, whoever. But yes, definitely reach out to the Pathway Pollinators. If there's any sort of friendly civic organization that wants to advertise, we will always allow a table to be up at the beginning. They'll have 30 to 45 minutes of FaceTime with people as they come in and out of the doors. So like I said, let's over the next week try to secure all that once we have our date down. I don't have anything else regarding the general meeting planning at this point. The board's going to be very busy over the next 2 weeks finalizing all of that. On that note, and this is very much related, we're going to discuss the neighborhood street safety program. A little background, the neighborhood street safety program is, it was originally developed separately by the city council to give individual areas of town a voice in where and what simple improvements could be made to make our streets safer, not necessarily for cars, but for everybody else. These tend to be low dollar projects, and that's a relative term. A crosswalk definitely costs more than a coat of paint. So the current budget for the neighborhood street safety program, which has been folded into the GO bond, is $3.9 million. Every individual district was asked to submit 2 projects for consideration. In the next week, we are going to be responding back to the city. The city staff has been working with us over the last at least 6 months, trying to finalize some of this. Here is a list of the phase 2 projects, which have funding. It is a total of 16 projects. And we will be, the board, or if anybody else will be commenting on this, we will have, I think we can get some of this put on our website in the next couple of days. Would that be possible?
Yeah, sure. I'll make a note.
So if anybody has any comments on anything, these are random small projects all over town. Some of them are crosswalks. Some of them are redesign, requests for traffic abatement concerns. Some of them are, literally shutting down small areas of road to vehicular traffic because they're causing accidents and things like that. It really just depends on what section of town you're in and what those individuals see as a concern. I just want everybody to know this is one of the things that we've been working on for years. This is some of our first improvements. People probably haven't even noticed, or even second improvements over the last few years. But literally more and more crosswalks. And when I say crosswalks, I typically mean a crosswalk along a major arterial with a traffic median or a safety median for the pedestrian is just but one example of some of these things. City staff and city council, they don't know. If they don't live in an area, they don't know where traffic is a problem or where it's hard to cross streets. It comes down to the people that are actually walking around, or whose kids are riding their bikes to and from friends' houses and things like that.
So is this, you've been officially notified that this new list is out and you got to comment on it?
You also got this by an email, and if you have not got this, I will forward this to you yet. But this is from Robin Lewis. Each individual neighborhood association has until March 18th to comment on this list. Every neighborhood district was asked to participate. One of the original meetings, the original public meetings, was hosted by Robin Lewis, a city staffer here at the Larkspur Center, and then they've had a couple others with other neighborhoods as well. And if you have not gotten this, you have another week still to.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing this all.
Okay.
Last status I had, they were still working.
So
That was about a month ago.
if you wouldn't mind scrolling down, so this is the 100% funded list, phase 2.
And I believe that's our only project on here.
That is the old farm district's only project. you can see there's other breakdowns. If you look at, scroll down a little bit more, it says there's 150% funded list. These are projects that were submitted, but there are not funds available. So that means the only way these could happen is if city council somehow comes up with some extra money through possibly the transportation utility fee or through the general fund. And then there's another set of projects, and that is the 300% funded list. All of these projects are not from city staff. They are from the people of Bend submitted to the city. And that is how these are determined. This is literally bottom up governance at the best level. I'm a strong proponent of the neighborhood street safety program. This is how the people have a say in what's going on. Jim, I will definitely get you this email.
I will look for it, but it may come to.
I will send it to you again after this meeting's over.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have anything on the NSSP? The last topic is, Brian, if you could just give a spiel on the board recruitment process or discussion process. We do have 2 open board members.
Well, I think I gave my pitch
Okay,
already.
if you've already given one pitch, then
I think it just, I mean, if anyone's listening, share the word. If you personally are not inclined or available to work at the board level, understand, but there are plenty of passionate people in our district. Usually information fuels that, because there is so much going on and there is going to be so much happening for years to come, that share the word. We have 2 open positions, and we would just love to have them contact us and ask any questions, and we would love to engage in a conversation about what we do and how they might be able to join us.
and on that note, springtime is near. We'll most likely be redoing or starting up the cleanups, which Brian was in charge of last year and also participated in. So what that means, if there's any of the major, roads around town and you're seeing trash, every now and then you see people that aren't sheriff's county prisoners cleaning the roads up. And those are your friends and neighbors. We just look like prisoners cleaning up crap out of the feet. So
You got that orange vest.
Oh, you bet you
with
do.
the on the back or
Oh,
something.
you bet.
So
You wanna glow in the dark when you're
That's
doing that.
right.
yes.
Yeah, I'm certainly noticing an uptick in garbage along Ferguson. I'm sure you have as well.
So I have nothing else to add to this meeting. Would any comments from anybody that's joined us? Or even questions, now that the meeting is, you've heard the month update, anything going forward or you'd like us to look into? You can ask us now, or you can shoot us an email. And Jim, you guys are both guests as well, honored guests, of course, but you're welcome to chat, say whatever you like at this moment.
Would you like to give a little more information on, are they specific positions that are open on the board, or are they just at large?
At any point, if somebody wants to step up, at this point, they're just positions on the board. The board is always open to restructuring. Karen has been the land use chair for a while. If somebody really wants to do that and Karen wants to step down, that would definitely be a possibility. If somebody wants to be the board chair.
I think he's opening up a can of worms. The current requirements are for a chair, a vice chair, and a land use chair. Other than that, people find their place on the board, and that's one of the initial questions. Like, what motivates you? What would you like to do? Because there's way more work than we can do. So there's plenty of opportunities, and it's mostly guided by the person.
For instance, he's not here, but one of our unofficial board members is Dirk Benson, and he is instrumental in getting out the newsletter. And any of those communications, 95% of those are from him, and he's never here in this room. Ross takes care of it whenever Dirk is traveling, but he lives in the district. He's just somebody that's, wants to be a part as well. So
I think if you're passionate about what's going on within the city, I think this is, wait, no, listen, Anne. If you're passionate about what is happening in the city and you want to, and you feel comfortable coming and sitting at the table and giving your opinion and listening to what's happening in the city and making informed decisions, helping us make informed decisions. It would be such a great position for people who participate regularly. But it's also really important to like learn about what is happening in the city first before like jumping in, because there's a lot of spider webs. But
We will not throw anybody into the fire on day one.
not on day one, but day two, absolutely. But I don't think like you could just sit in on it and then be like, oh yeah, this, nothing in concrete.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be about infrastructure. I mean, if one of the things the city council has expressed, they would like us to be more involved with neighborhood outreach. So for instance, last year we were with Southeast, helped host the Alpenglow Park opening, and over 5,000 people showed up to that. So if somebody wanted to make that their passion, this isn't about airing grievances. The neighborhood associations can do all sorts of things. It literally just depends on direction and time, and we are all volunteers.
Yeah, I'm gonna add one thing, because I think I've already touched on it, but the NAs are only as strong as their membership. I mean, and that's the bottom line. So one of the things I'd love to see is somebody who would really just, you could do this largely from home, but just communicate, reach out, get stuff, drive engagement with people with the newsletter. The newsletters and the website have enough information that if you can't find something in that that's of interest to you, then you're probably, you need to check your pulse. So there's work that could be done that doesn't necessarily require strenuous lifting, but it does require a certain level of passion and commitment to it to be effective. And if you possess any of those qualities, we'd love to hear from you.
Anything else from the board?
I think we're about out of time.
If that is it, I am going to call this meeting to an end. Stay on the lookout. We've got more information coming to you.